Trisha Yearwood's shocking and unflattering comments at the age of 60 shocked her fans. Many people didn't think she would ever reveal the truth about her Grammys, cookbooks, and massive business. She just broke some heartbreaking news about her family's death and her relationship with Garth Brooks, which might alter your perception of her forever. Trisha Yearwood's multi-platinum albums, hearty Southern dishes, and powerful voice have made her famous. But beneath all the glitter, there is a lady who quietly crumbled under the weight of her loss. Rather than celebrating Trisha's 61st birthday, she found herself reflecting on the loved ones who were unable to attend. Not only did she shock her fans by being so honest about the darkest period of her life, but they were also shocked by how much she had endured on her own. Her family was more than simply a support system, they were her foundation. Trisha treated them with the utmost reverence whenever she spoke about them, as if there was an unbreakable bond between them that few could fathom. Instead of trying to escape them, they should have taken advantage of vacation time to get away from them. Trisha and her sister didn't want to run away from their parents like most kids do. Instead, they ran toward them. They were best friends first, and when they left, it was as if home itself had disappeared. The impact was two-pronged. Tragically, Trisha's father passed away just before her cookbooks and cooking show became popular. Before she walked into a kitchen where he was the inspiration for every dish, she was having a blast. It seemed as though every meal had been tinged with melancholy. Her mother returned just 3 years later. Along with the maternal love and the traditions they had shared, she also carried them with her. Loss wasn't the only problem. The culture itself was vanishing. Laughter and lively conversation over biscuits and gravy came to a halt. The majority of spectators saw the cheerful performer or TV personality. Nobody noticed the distraught woman who broke down in tears over homemade recipe cards or the overwhelming sense of shame she felt upon entering a house that had once been the hub of her world, but was now deserted. Trisha kept her grief a secret from the world, but she never wanted anyone to feel sorry for her. Every dish she prepared on stage and every word she sang had two purposes: to entertain and to honor. Never once did she publicly admit that she was collaborating with specters in her kitchen, but her legion of fans soon caught on. The terrifying aspect of the nothingness was how abruptly it arrived. Neither time nor a grand tour of cherished memories was allotted for the farewell. After having parents one day and none the next, Trisha found herself all alone. People in the public eye saw neatly groomed individuals with flawless makeup and engaging in pleasant conversation. Nobody could fathom why she had such a hard time getting out of bed in the mornings, or how a single song could derail her entire day. Seeking assistance, she sought out her sister Beth. They shared a common anguish over the deaths of loved ones. In addition to being Trisha's sister, Beth was the only one who understood the depth of her suffering. As if entangled in a tempest, they clung to one another. Trisha announced, "You're my person," in a previous interview. Her voice quivered. The story was fresh and original. My survival was paramount. They were the last survivors, and their heritage was too precious to let go. While Trisha was grieving, her admirers were unaware that she nearly gave up on life altogether. The stage no longer captivated her. It appeared as though the music industry was excessively demanding and noisy. On occasion she would gaze at her guitar and feel nothing. The same woman who fantasized about overflowing stadiums now yearned for solitude, silence, and surprisingly to bid farewell. Nobody in Trisha's immediate vicinity was aware that she was planning to leave her job. Not only was she famous, but she also won a Grammy for her book. Nobody could possibly believe that she felt completely unnoticed by herself. It was believed that she possessed all the necessities. However, her mental stability was deteriorating behind the scenes. Her husband Garth Brooks intervened and saved her from herself. Throughout he had been present. Before they became known as Trisha and Garth, they were just two young musicians making their Nashville debut. However, Garth's support during her loss was unrelated to the entertainment industry. That was just love. He made no effort to alleviate her distress. It was never said to her, "Get over it" or "Be strong." His allowance of space allowed her to cry, and more significantly, to breathe again. The sole thing that spared her was that life had never been enough for Garth. He had a captivating personality, performed arena tours, and was a major star in the country music industry. When they were alone though, he became even more serene. Assisting her in maintaining her balance, he reassured her that she could pause time if she so desired. Garth, as usual, didn't merely claim to be present, he demonstrated it. Trisha was shown that there was still beauty in the world when he set up surprise interviews with her sister and gave her very special birthday gifts. Among those presents was the Mustang. She felt like she had lost the fearless, independent girl who had always dared to dream big. She is taken back to her school days by this. Garth discovered a special anniversary edition that was one of fewer than 2,000 made and presented it to her on her 50th birthday. The focus was on reminiscence rather than pleasantries. We wanted to show her that she didn't have to let herself be hurt by her past. Even when it's on wheels, it has a chance of survival. However, Trisha was deeply moved when she heard her sister's voice singing on a track of her most recent album's final mix. It wasn't at the studio that she was. Earlier, she had left town. After secretly flying her to film the role, Garth disappeared without informing anyone. As soon as Trisha heard it, she began to cry. This wasn't your average song. It was so familiar. These actions were not grandiose or dramatic. These were the individual decisions of a husband who wanted his moving wife to feel secure again, and he knew she was moving. Garth restored pieces of her that she had lost. He did more than that. Trisha gradually reverted to her former self, only this time she was stronger. Even a relationship this strong will have its share of challenges. Being married to someone as beautiful and beloved as her husband can make Trisha feel like she's giving him to everyone, she has said. It was difficult for her to know whether her light could coexist with his at times. Regardless, Garth was always open to her. Giving her the spotlight made him happy. Despite the fact that Trisha's job had changed and her grief had persisted, she couldn't shake the question, had she already experienced the pinnacle of her life, or was something even more magnificent yet to come? It seemed like a natural transition for Trisha Yearwood to take center stage on a cooking show after her success as a country singer. However, they failed to notice that Trisha's Southern Kitchen was always more than a television gig. Fundamentally, it saved lives. She was making a sincere effort to remain near her parents, who she considered holy. Her every culinary demonstration and television snack brought back a flood of nostalgic memories. Occasionally there would be specters as well. The deaths of Trisha's parents were not the only losses she suffered. A portion of her house seemed to have vanished. All of a sudden, there was silence in the kitchen, devoid of her parents' laughter and the comforting tales her dad had been telling as dinner was cooking. It was as if her house was covered in a fine dust of sadness, she thought. You couldn't make out a sound. She had to get the kitchen going because it was the only sensible thing to do. Furthermore, she channeled her sorrow into a constructive endeavor. With every bite, a memory would resurface. Her mom's potato salad recipe was more than just a recipe, it was a family tradition. The scent, the texture, and the arrangement of the bowl on the counter evoked a brief memory of her mother. Her culinary abilities were not on display on her show. An understated uprising against forgetfulness occurred. A temporal battle of words. Those who beheld her had no idea they were being led into a sacred space. More than just observing her cook, they participated. They could see her improving. However, Trisha recognized the irony. Even though it helped her cope with loss, food was something she had battled her entire life. The pressures of being a female celebrity in a society where physical attractiveness is valued were a constant source of self-doubt for her. Her fear of the cost per bite kept her from enjoying her cookies, even though everyone loved them. The kitchen, a supposed haven of peace and quiet, could at times feel more like a battlefield. Frequently in interviews, Trisha has parodied her yo-yo dieting, but beneath all the humor was a real person attempting to find out how to be authentic on television. In terms of size too, no, as an objective, no. But as Trisha, strong, tricky. I agree, that internal struggle was as difficult as anything she had encountered in her career as a musician. It didn't stop her though. Despite her imperfections, desires, and stretch lines, she chose to be seen. She shared her passion for food and her desire to embrace her body positivity with everyone. Women saw that she was perfectly content to be a center fielder, to be ignorant of all things, being in love with both pie and another person simultaneously. That kind of unassuming self-assurance sticks in people's minds for much longer than any picturesque photo ever could. But it wasn't always a picnic. They dealt with critics, cameras, and their own anxiety throughout the show's run. However, she quietly honored her family with every dish she prepared. It was a batter flavored with love, grief, and strength, brushed with butter. To those who shared my feelings of loss, loneliness, or sadness, it was more than just another cooking show. That made me happy. But as Trisha's show gained more viewers and her fame as America's Southern sweetheart expanded, fans started to wonder if she was finally prepared to reveal the life-altering recipe that had been simmering in her heart all along. A song's significance has always been clear to her. Her performances are always honest and genuine, and her singing always sounds like it comes straight from the heart. However, during one song, she was on the verge of crying. The song's emotional resonance was the real reason, not its difficulty to sing. I Remember You was more than simply another song on her record, because she never got the chance to say goodbye to someone. Tears sealed the letter to the past. As soon as Trisha laid eyes on the words, she froze. Words they couldn't understand, hands they couldn't grasp, and desire were all things they discussed. Just thinking about her mom, the dinner table without her, and the voicemails she couldn't delete made her hurt so badly. As I sang the song in the studio, it brought back every memory, the hospital room, the late-night calls, and the peaceful drive home. She sobbed, once more after that. She considered just avoiding it altogether for a second. For Trisha, making music has always been about more than making a living. This has served as her therapy, confessional, and journal all in one. She leaned in instead of pulling away. Even more shocking was her request that her sister sing the song's chorus. As a birthday present from Garth Brooks, Trisha's sister was flown in. No one understood her emotions like her sister. The sound of her sister's voice on the tape made Trisha cry. It wasn't about creating a fantastic song back then. Ensuring the safety of things was paramount. Our main goal was to assure everyone that we're still here. For Trisha, this was an experience similar to rebirth. It was more than simply music. She felt her mother's presence in every movement and sound. The sound of their voices echoing off of one another brought back a flood of childhood memories for her and her sister. In the kitchen, they would sing and dance to the music of their parents' records. Not because of the song's commercial success, but because it allowed her to have a one-on-one conversation with her mother. The release of I Remember You marked a watershed moment in her career. Performing it live was incredibly challenging for her, and her fans had no idea. Someone in the front row would always be blotting their eyes, and she began to believe that everyone could relate to that expression of sadness. It wasn't just hers. Behind the scenes, Trisha would occasionally cry after performances. On occasion, she became so emotional that she couldn't even complete the song. Though she didn't feel obligated to, she continued playing it out of respect. The message of this song was the truth that Trisha had been taught by her mother. The emotional toll was heavy, but the healing benefits were worth it. Singing about her mother provided solace, but it did little to alleviate the pain itself. It might have also helped those going through grief to realize they weren't alone. The ability to evoke genuine emotions in her listeners was Trisha's greatest strength, even more so than her singing. Nevertheless, rumors began circulating in the music industry that Trisha was contemplating leaving just as she was beginning to recover. Did she really think she could walk off the stage? On the other hand, was something greater drawing her in a different direction? As the final curtain fell on yet another sold-out tour, something seemed different. Word got out to the fans.